This is the Colonel coming to you from my fortified compound somewhere inside the American South. And what you're looking at is a game, Gorbachev, The Fall of Communism. It's a game designed by Ben Madison, kicking off what looks to be his Cold War trilogy, and it is published by White Dog Games. And this one, you're looking at another game, Mrs. Thatcher's War, the Falklands, 1982. Obviously covering the Falklands War between Great Britain and Argentina in 1982. Both of them good games. Both of them I recommend highly if you want a great solitaire experience. They're both solitaire. What do they have in common? With the exception of the designer, Ben Madison, he designed them both. Well, the commonality between, and both of them are really good games. Recommended highly. Check out White Dog Games if you haven't. White Dog Games has some games really on some lesser known conflicts. It's just some neat games and some really good history there. Well, you might say, well, they're not straight simulations, and they are not, although they have really good history and they impart a really good feel of what both of these conflicts were like. Well, Mrs. Thatcher's War is based on, originally, borrows heavily from the game engine of Vietnam Solitaire by David Kershaw. In Gorbachev, it borrows heavily from the States of Siege series by Victory Games, and particularly from the borrows heavily from the design of Steve Carey in We Must Tell the Emperor, which is a game that hasn't been available for a while, and a lot of people long for. So if you can't scratch your itch with that game, you don't want to pay $80-$90 for a States of Siege game. Man, having trouble talking this morning. You can get Gorbachev and, have similar mechanics. Well, yeah, there's something very important about both these games. They were both based and borrowed heavily from other game engines, if you will. That's something important, extremely important within war games. I talk to some of my friends around the tables. I see some stuff online. I even hear in some reviews people talking about innovation. And what they're really, one of the synonyms for innovation is originality. And that's what they're talking about. They want something original, something new, something they haven't seen before. And I'm telling you, I enjoy something I haven't seen before as well. I enjoy something new. I enjoy maybe looking at a conflict in a different way through different mechanics. But I have to say, I think when we're just looking for innovation or wanting to innovate solo for being innovative, we're looking at it the wrong way. I don't want something that's just innovative. I want perfection. I want something that has been perfected. And both of these games take a system already there, borrow heavily from them, and go down the road in trying to perfect them. That's what I want. Much more polished games, much more smooth games in the design. Now, they have to make sense to the conflict. You wouldn't want to they have to make sense to the conflict. You have to tailor them to the conflict. That's not what I'm saying. I'm always about the mechanics have to match the conflict. Yes, they do. So they have to be tailored a little bit, but yet the systems need to be smoothed out and perfected through work and in time. I'm a sycophant of Jim Dunnigan, and if you read the Complete War Games Handbook by Jim Dunnigan, he tells you the work is there. Just borrow from it. Borrow what mechanic you need for what game you're using. You know, you can mix and match mechanics, but the work is there. The idea of innovation can also lead to things like, you know, I think that A Few Acres of Snow, now that I'm thinking of it, was a real innovative game. Make that mini deck builder to simulate the time it was taken for Europe to get supplies from Europe, or get orders from Europe, or even people from Europe, and going back and forth. That was innovative, but you end up with something that everybody, you know, if you look at that game now, everybody talks Halifax Hammer. It's broken. It's this. It's that. That's where innovation can go. A game have great mechanics, and yet it hasn't been. Those mechanics have not been smoothed out over time. Those mechanics are not maybe they're not ill-fitting, but maybe they're still too new. Because if you look at a game based on A Few Acres of Snow, Hands in the Sea, you know, they understood there was a Halifax Hammer, and they were play testing it and playing it to not have that problem within that game. So that's all I'm saying. Let's look at perfecting these games. That's the way I look at it. I look down the line and I say, hey, when someone takes an engine, a basic engine from an earlier game, and incorporates it into a new game, I think, wow, that's pretty good. Think about it. 94, we had 1994, the father of car-driven designs, Mark Herman, he came out with We the People. Well, that game in a lot of ways was imperfect in a lot of ways, mechanically wrong in some ways. I don't want to get into it, but by the time you go through other iterations of car-driven games, by the time, you know, For the People, and then Pog, when that's a huge thing, that makes its rounds. And well, he gets back to We the People, comes through with Washington's War, and a much smoother game than We the People. So that's all I'm saying. Why must we always be looking for innovative mechanics? Why cannot we look for the perfect mechanic, the system that is smoothed out the best? You know, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking at. That's where I think that maybe we should be going in wargaming. Not to be innovative for the sake of innovation, but to get these systems, to grind them out, to get them working good, to get them looking good. And yes, they must be tailored to the conflict. I have full agreement with that. That's all I have for you. I'm just wanting to rant a little bit. I'm just putting this up on this channel just to talk about war games, my theories, what I like, some of my crackpot ideas even. Although I do not think the perfection of engines is a crackpot idea. Neither do I think innovation is a crackpot idea. I just think it can be wrong-headed if that's just what you're looking for. If that's just what you want, is a game that you haven't seen something from before. No. We need to see games with engines that have been smoothed out, that have been perfected, that are really good. It's been worked out over time. That's where I'm going. And if you want either of these games, please pick. I would recommend either of them. They're both good games. Gorbachev kind of shocked me. You know, I thought I played enough States of Siege games, and since it was based on a States of Siege engine, I thought the engine from We Must Tell the Emperor. I thought, I don't know. No, it's real good, excellent game. I'm looking forward to the second game in the trilogy. Cold War trilogy, Rhodesia. I've been dying for a Rhodesian game for a long time. I mean, what do we have? Fortress Rhodesia, and then we have, you know, maybe a fan-made scenario in the old S&T, South Africa from SPI. That's all we have about Rhodesia. And then I've been craving for that for personal reasons. Mrs. Thatcher's War, another really good game. I would highly recommend you picking either of these up and check out White Dog Games. Again, I can't talk enough about how good they are. How many really games just speak to me. There you have it. I'll talk to you later, fellas.